Right, so here we have our new project. 1964 Daimler V8 250. Hasn't run since 2005 at least. In fairly good condition overall, body wise, not a lot of rust at all, a few scratches, nice interior. Wish you could smell the smell. A lovely old classic car smelling leather. Everything's in fairly good condition. Nice and straight down the sides. Does need a good clean, it's quite dusty. A few micro blisters on the paint, which is a shame, but overall it's quite solid. However, underneath, we're in the middle of draining the fuel tank down, as the petrol that was in the fuel tank is over 15 years old and it stinks. I've put an endoscope in the fuel tank and it's actually quite clean, but we're going to take it out and flush it through, and then we can look at what we're going to do next. A nice old classic Mark II Jaguar shape, even though it's the Daimler. Right, so we're back at the Daimler V8 250. It's been about 5 weeks since I acquired the vehicle, and we have gone through quite a bit of it now, bearing in mind this hasn't run since 2005. So we have rebuilt the carburetors, ultrasonically cleaned them, had a couple of threads go on the inlet manifold, so manifolds come off, new helicoils, repaired those, flushed all the water system out. However, that was really good beforehand. Whoever had owned it before had dosed it up with antifreeze, so there was no corrosion, everything's good on that. All new pipe work on the cooling system, new stainless heater hoses all round, new heater valve. We've put a new filter in the power steering, flushed that out, new hose at the bottom. Braking system was a bit of a disaster. We've put a new servo in. We've converted it to the Lucas master cylinder. But after all that, the brakes wouldn't bleed. And what had happened is, when this was, I think, sort of restored about 20 years ago, it had new brake hoses. Those brake hoses, for whatever reason, have rusted up inside, and they were blocked solid, so I couldn't actually bleed the brakes. So we've put new Goodrich hoses on the front and the back. It's got all new copper brake pipes, or they were done when the car was restored, as I say, probably 20 years or so ago, so that's all good. Flushed the engine out, new oil, filter, topped up the transmission. That's got a small leak on the back, which is fairly common on any old auto gearbox from this era. Probably needs a new sump pan gasket, but that's topped up. A new distributor connector on the low tension side, which was quite hard to get, but I've got one of those, as that had just been taped up and left hanging. That would have ended up causing a disaster. New plug leads, spark plugs, all new drive belts, and then at the rear we've cleaned out the fuel tank. We've put all new hoses on the fuel system. The system's completely cleaned out, flushed out, new filter, down here. And that is about it. So we are now going to try and start it for the first time. I know for a fact this hasn't run since 2005, so I say everything's all primed up. It's got a new fuel pump on it. Everything should work. So let's see what happens. Right, here we go. So we're now going to try and start the old Daimler for the first time in probably around 16 years. So let's have a go. Wow, look at that. Impressive all right. Now I'm quite impressed with that. As I say, the carburettors are all cleaned out and everything's primed up, so I thought it would start fairly quickly, but not that quickly. The engine sounds really quiet, which is good. So there we are, it has actually moved out of the garage under its own steam, which is really good. Wasn't expecting that. It actually sounds quite good.